many of you are here on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's
For Rahul, I would like to introduce about JOT. So JOT is an in-house initiative by GLS Institute of Design, and we tend to invite a lot of people, speakers, to come, share their experience, share their journey, talk about trends, what's happening in their particular field, and invite students to how they can take the experience back and apply it in their classrooms as well as in their career. So today we have Mr. Rahul Agarwal. I'd like to welcome him with our director, Dr. Anil Sinha, with a bouquet. So thank you, Rahul, for accepting our invite. I'd like to introduce you. Sure. So Rahul is founder of Polygon Design and Itsu. He is a person who took a simple idea and he'll show that idea and has taken that idea, converted that idea into a product, and now that product is reaching to all the corners of the world. And whenever we see that product and whenever we listen to that product or maybe see online about reviews of that product, we feel happy that it's done by one of us. So he's going to talk about that product. He's also the person who's behind the India's one of the biggest, if not biggest, Kickstarter campaign, which he had done for taking that product from idea level to where it has reached. So welcome, Rahul, and over to you. So Anil sir also wants to talk to you. So
Before welcoming Rahul, I'll simply tell the students that time is the money. If you will not respect other time, the time will not going to give you anything. Other thing is, experience doesn't mean the age. Experience doesn't mean the age. Experience is related with the kind of and the amount of work and how you have done that work that matters to give you experience. Here we have, till now, whatever whomever we have called, Rahul is the youngest one. You know? But from local, how you can go global is a big example. Once my son asked me, Papa, आपका USP क्या है? I said, I'm a very hard-working person. He said, today, hard working is not needed. You need to have the smart working. In the smart working things, the time has to be respected. If you not respect the time, you are gone with. The time will go and you will be there only. So I'll tell today all my students from personally and from the institutionally that whenever we are saying 2 o'clock means 2 o'clock. So it doesn't mean that 2 o'clock you will start coming. You will have to be here 5 minutes to 2 and fill up the first row, second row, not to wait for the faculty to come in the sit in the first row. Whoever will come first, they should sit there. And whoever will come late, they will have to sit back. No? So from next time, take care. You are lucky that we have this opportunity to call many people on a very regular basis and frequent basis. I don't want to take much time here between you and Rahul. We all are waiting for Rahul to actually talk about. Rahul, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and coming to share your work. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks for the lovely introduction, Pritesh and Anil, sir. So, I'm not really used to so many eyes and cameras being trained on me. Uh, Before I start off, I would just want to understand why some of you are here. So, because Anil sir gave me a very good advice. If you don't know what to speak about, just ask the audience, because a lot has been done in the past few years. A lot has been loads of ups and downs, of course. So I don't know what's really relevant to the audience here. So I'd really appreciate it if any of you could just tell me what you're expecting to see, and I'll modulate my presentation according to that. Anybody at all? Anybody?
We'd like to see your a very classroom project,
Hmm.
getting what makes you that no experience, no, in fact, none of your faculty members would have experience on Kickstarter like
Yeah.
platform or getting it to global. How do
Hmm.
you make a enterprise out of it?
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So I'll start off with, of course, the thing that Pritesh sir introduced me about. It was a very simple idea. I'd come up with that idea for my SPD in college time, and then I took it up much later after having worked in the industry after about 1.5, 2 years. Where is it? Yeah. It's a very simple idea. Basically, on the market, you have these things called measuring spoons. I think most of you must have come across something like this, where like 1 tablespoon, half tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. These are it's a preparation tool which India में तो उतना use नहीं होता. It's more like स्वाद अनुसार डाल देते हैं. But in most of the I would say first world countries maybe, this is a staple in every household, every kitchen. So this was our campaign. You see the numbers here. It was at the time the biggest campaign in India. I'll just play a quick video of what the product does. Just a sec. So super simple idea, which is also why it was quite a hit on the internet at the time. So I have a question to ask. So after seeing this, any industrial design student can feel free to answer me. How much time would it take to have the idea, get the prototypes done, get the production done, and get it out there? What is the estimate length of time that you foresee for something like this? Can somebody point me towards an industrial design student? Him, okay. Yeah. No, I know him already. Somebody else. Sorry? No, no, I know you already. I want the answer from somebody else. I know you and you know me, so it's not fair. Can you point me towards some other industrial design student? Okay, nice. Huh. 2 months or 3 months? For the ideation stage and the rest of the process? Who was that? Okay, yeah. 6 to 7 months for the manufacturing, you're saying?
No, sir. For the prototype, till the prototyping level and the final materials and everything.
Okay, and to get a manufacturing ready product, so which is ready to roll off the production line, how long would it take? In your estimate, of course. I mean, I know none of you have gone through that process, but I want to get a fair estimate of what you think it takes. Just give me any number.
A year maybe.
A year maybe. Okay, cool. ठीक है. It took me roughly 2.5 years. But of course, again, this was my first product which I was doing end to end. So I'll now get back to this later. This is a different story altogether. I'll just show you some stuff from my student days, because that's where the story starts. I mean, you don't get to this before, like, without having gone through a whole different process of learning. So of course, I graduated from NID in 2015, product design. And I was always sort of the guy who wanted to work on stuff which picked my brains a little bit. So even from a graphics perspective, this was one of my favorite exercises in foundation. It's called it's a part of GC, I think. Yeah, it's called tessellations. So for example, this one, just a concept, like this guy is, I don't know if it's clearly visible, but this guy is punching himself. So I wanted to capture the idea of a looping GIF or a looping video in a picture format. So this was just one of the explorations really early in foundation. This is my take on Angels and Demons by MC Escher, and just some more random experiments because this was too much fun for me. So I just went wild. I'll get to the PD part of it. Maybe, yeah. So I would regard myself, I don't know how exactly the disciplines are divided in this institute, but in NID it was basically VC and ID, visual communication and industrial design. So I would regard myself as a guy with VC roots who took ID. So I was always very, very interested in, of course, coming up with a great idea, but also presenting and marketing it well. So even during my coursework, I would try to take my ideas to the final stage where I maybe have a video where the product is sold or explained properly. So this was one of the other outputs. This is for a course called Universal Design. So what Universal Design basically stands for is, in crude words, one can say designing for the lesser able people. For example, somebody who's disabled or let's say a single-handed person or whatever. And the cherry on top of the cake is if that particular product can also be used by a properly abled person without any stigma. So that's what we were out to achieve in that course. It was, I think, a 2-week long course. And this was the output. This was, I think, the first video I tried to make for a course output. And this is a it is a little bit longer, but I had fun doing it. So, okay, I'll just pause it here. These items kept on the table. Can anybody make a guess as to what these things are? Scale, pencil, and the third one? Okay, cool, perfect, yeah. So that, to start with, that achieves the purpose that at least it doesn't look like something made for the lesser able people. So the first part of this video is just demonstrating how in your regular life you would use these items with using both your hands. So now she gets a call, of course, and now she's rendered single-handed. That's the product. I had fun making this, but I made a really long video because of course, we had juries and stuff back then, so इसमें the process is also there. I just learned how to 3D model, so I just went wild with that. Just threw in some renders just for the heck of it. Just scroll, blah 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 blah. These were the prototypes that were made and tested with people. Yeah, so that goes all the way. So that was a fun course. Then maybe I'll move on to after graduation. Yeah. So I had worked with this particular startup called Exploride. What they were making was a heads-up display for a car. So what this does is, I'll just show you the video. Let me see. I hope they still have the video. Yeah.
We love to dream, and we wished our dreams were real. Reality is different. Wish to take that important call while driving without disturbing your conversation with your sweetheart. Your music is your world. Enjoy your favorite tracks from your playlist, Spotify, Pandora, and also from online radio. We want you to stay safe en route. Imagine your messages are read to you without disturbing you. Enjoy the hands-free environment and call your loved ones without even using your phone. VoIP calling facility is inbuilt into Exploride. Make most of it using the exclusive Exploride mobile application. Building relationships without any boundaries. Never get lost on road. Take the right road to reach on time, every time. Now your driving experience is not just complete without knowing about your ride. The onboard diagnostic gives you crisp and sharp information about your speed, tire pressure, fuel, and other important statistics. A feature-rolling list of various apps available. Make use of a plethora of apps just crafted for your journeys. When you hit those long drives, Exploride reads what's around. Our superior augmented reality powered application gives you the perfect vision everywhere you go. All this is accessible on your mobile while you're inside or outside your car. Because your car is connected to the cloud always. Exploride. Drive safe. Drive connected.
So of course, unfortunately, this company is no more. But there's a long story behind that. The funny thing behind this is why I really appreciate the design education that I went through was when the founder of this startup called me. He was like, "Okay, Rahul, I have a rough idea, and I want you to come here for 10 days. Here means Kochi. I was working in Kochi, and just dress it up a little bit." So what I told him was that, okay, cool, that I don't think it works that way, but let's try it out. I went there for 10 days. Of course, I helped him dress up the concept, but because of the design thought process, problem solving process, the holistic angle that we're given via the design education, I was also able to contribute in his marketing, the business plan, product architecture, engineering, everything. So he was quite impressed. He was like, "Rahul, just come back, come on as a shareholder, get a piece of the pie, get involved in a more maximal way. So that's how the story went. But this guy was a little bit deceptive, so things didn't work out, and even this company shut down. At the time, this was the biggest crowdfunding campaign in India, so this is where I got most of my experience from. But after the whole thing fell out, I was a little bit perturbed, and I was like, okay, screw this guy, I will run my own campaign, I will make that bigger than this. So that's how I came back to my one of the classroom projects, which was this one. Yeah, so I'd submitted it as my SPD, yeah, I think in my second or third year. So back then itself, because the presentation had been done in a sort of a polished way, what happened was that some guy online picked it up, he shared it on his Tumblr blog, and it went semi-viral. So it got a lot of views, it got covered in a lot of places, even while it was still a concept. So the good thing that happened was I got validation for the product, as in people want it. And the thing with most businesses is that the validation aspect is what is the most tricky part. That okay, we'll build this whole thing, we'll invest so much time and energy and money to make whatever we are making, but will the audience actually buy it or accept it? So for me, that was covered, thankfully. Then yeah, then after this particular thing, I worked at one more company where my role was more of a interface and UX designer, which I was just wanting to try it out because it was really booming back then. This is way back in 2015. And I came back to my project. So now I was like, okay, how do I take this forward? What next? I mean, we've done the design process. We know how to make a prototype, but uske baad kya aata hai? I mean, you're clueless. Because especially in industrial design, the gap between what you're taught in the classroom and what is expected or required in the industry is huge. It is quite a big gap. So thankfully, I had a lot of great mentors and teachers around me. Sandy, Sanandan, Sudhir being one of them. I don't know if you guys know. Invent India, you'll know. Yeah. So I booked a flight to China. I went there. I went to a trade fair. A trade fair is basically an event where under a very, very large roof, a lot of manufacturers and vendors, they gather, and you can go and meet them and you can discuss your business prospect with them. So I took a very crude handmade prototype with, and just flew to China. I talked to some of them, visited their factories, got some prototypes made, got a fair idea of the costing, which of course later on it didn't work out. The final costing was maybe 5 or 6x of what we had estimated. But then that allowed me to now go ahead with the campaign, the Kickstarter campaign. Now the thing was, okay, now Kickstarter is, not a lot of people had done Kickstarters in India back then. So it was very difficult to actually approach somebody for guidance as to how to go about doing this. It seems simple enough that you put your concept online and people will fund it in return for in exchange for the product, of course, it's not a donation. So it seems simple enough, but it's not, because it was gathering so much traction and it had so much competition that you couldn't organically just get noticed. So I figured that I had to hire a marketing team, and the marketing team, none of the Indian marketing teams had any experience in a space like this. So US marketing team it had to be, of course. When I'd approached them, of course, their rates were exorbitant. I was just 1 year out of college. I didn't have enough savings to actually pay them. But we struck a deal where it was a percentage of the total campaign amount raised, blah blah. But they helped me out with the whole marketing aspect and everything. And because the video was so simple to see and understand and appreciate, it just went viral. And in the 4 weeks that we ran the campaign, it was massive. It was I was shooting for maybe half the amount that we got, but yeah, we overshot by a huge way. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not really straightforward, and now it's just gotten more and more difficult to run a successful campaign because the space is just so cluttered. It's like a gold rush. Everybody is going for it. Even big companies like Xiaomi and Sony, they are also doing crowdfunding, because what it allows them to do is get market validation for their product even before they launch it or even before they invest in making the product, which is why crowdfunding is not just for startups or newbies or beginners anymore. It's a really, really cluttered space and a really, really competitive space. So yeah, we went through this. This happened. It was a huge success on paper until the funding phase at least, and that's where the rosy part of the story ended. Uh, so so until this time, like before the Kickstarter campaign, we because I'd gone to China before this, we had some manufactured like industrial grade prototypes which were 95% there, like till how the final product would look like or feel like. But what I realized was after the campaign that that final 5% is what really takes everything out of you. And that final 5% is what took 2.5 years, even though one of the best product design minds in the country, which is Sanandan Sudhir, he was with me all throughout. He was helping me. He was traveling with me to China. Maybe I'll show you some videos or something. Yeah. Yeah, this is a photo at one of the Chinese vendors' offices where we are doing a lot of calculations. It looks like a lot of rocket science, but it was just a lot of trial and error. This process was actually so intensive, and we went through so much of. I mean, my memory is a little bit fuzzy as to what all we had to do to get here. But basically, origami as a concept, I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of products based on origami, even though it sounds so wonderful. You'll be seeing some lamps and stuff like that because those are made of paper and you don't really need to interact with that. But if you need to build something durable and sturdy and washable using the concept of origami, you don't really have a lot of products which work on that function. And especially our particular product, it had so many intersecting hinges. Like, I'm getting a little bit technical now, but it has so many intersecting hinges which all need to fold and then snap back. It's just really, it was very difficult to figure out. I'll show you what the manufacturing process looks like. We had to change manufacturers 4 or 5 times across the duration of the 2.5 years. So actually, one more interesting thing. What I thought was that, okay, maybe if I approach a manufacturer who makes kitchen utensils. So a lot of kitchen utensils nowadays are made of silicon, right? So if I approach a manufacturer who makes kitchen utensils, they'll be able to help me out with this. But they couldn't. Finally, what we ended up doing was we went with a manufacturer who actually used to produce the keyboards for BlackBerry. If you remember BlackBerries way back, no touchscreen, early generation. So I'll just show you how the BlackBerry's keyboard is made. It'll give you some more context. So this is what the unit looks like. Let me find a better photo. Yeah, this is what a keypad looks like. What it is essentially is these are the plastic parts. The keys are the plastic parts, and they are fused on a single silicon membrane at the back. You can see this blue thing, that is the membrane. So these manufacturers were absolutely top quality. They used to do stuff for BlackBerry, Sony, etc. And they were really good at what they were doing, and not everybody could do that. And these were the guys whom we finally ended up working with, because that's the manufacturing technique that this product employs. I'll show you the manufacturing video. Yeah, so first these plastic pieces are injection molded. What I'll do is after this talk maybe I'll just hand out the product so all of you can have a look and feel at it, because it's quite a complex construction. It's not as simple as the video made it look. So the plastic parts are injection molded, then they are placed in a mold where all the cavities are filled with magnets. Oh, and by the way, so the magnets were feedback that we got from the backers of the original campaign that we want magnets in the product. So we're like, okay, let's incorporate that because you helped us overshoot the goal. So let's do this for you. Then you have this piece of silicon. The silicon is placed on top of these plastic pieces. And then it's compressed. So it's compressed between the two plates. This plate that you see on the top and this the one at the bottom. And then you have this final product. Yeah. If I have to show you a 3D model of, no, I don't think that's necessary. Okay, so also a lot of testing is done. So I'm sure like one of the main questions is like how many times can it fold? So we had to test that. So there's this rig you make that it folds it again and again. If you've seen some ads of the Samsung Galaxy Fold, they'll also show some sort of a rig like this where they keep folding the phone again and again to make sure that it doesn't die. This is one of the tests. This is another test where you hang some weight on the product to see whether it tears, etc. A lot of these tests were done. Then of course when it's folded, so this is a push-pull meter. It shows you with how much force you're pushing something. So just how much force is required to deform the product in different materials. This white one is different material. So all these different materials. So various tests are done. These are all behind the scenes technical things that go behind making something that works. What is this video? Not recorded. Yeah. And what were the other challenges? Yes, the challenges. Yes. Yeah, so a lot of the things which worked for us during the prototyping phase or during the single unit production runs, those do not directly translate to mass manufacturing. So there's something a lot of you will also see in time, that making the prototype or the single unit is quite straightforward or easy, or maybe not, but for sure getting it to manufacturing is way more difficult when it comes to a mass manufacturing thing where everything has to be uniform. And for us, for example, out of every 100 units manufactured, 30 of them go to waste because of the delicate nature of the manufacturing. Of course, it's getting better after every production batch, but that is one of the things. It's an 11-step process to manufacture this. Then of course COVID hit in 2020. That set us back by quite some time because the China supply chain shut down. So even though we had this campaign at the end of 2016 and we started delivering the product at the end of 2019. But then again, we had to stop because China shut down, the supply chain shut down due to COVID. And then around in 2021, we resumed. And now we are also selling it parallelly online. We have a website. So of course, we aren't advertising this in India yet. We are advertising it in the US for now. But yeah, people can buy it. We are getting great reviews. It's going quite nicely. I'm quite happy, quite satisfied. There's nice reviews, there's repeat purchases. So once it all comes together, it's really fulfilling. So this was that part of the story. Of course, there's a lot behind this, and I don't even know where to start. Maybe someday I'll sit down and compile the whole story for this sometime, because a lot of people ask me. But if you have any specific questions regarding this, I'll just feel free to ask and I'll answer. But yeah, so this was till here. Until the time that so in 2020 we had the global lockdown and China was shut down for quite some time, and entry to China is still you don't get visas for China right now, maybe you'll start getting that next year. So in the meanwhile, we thought, okay, what do I do? I mean, I can't just sit around idly. So let's check out the manufacturing infrastructure of India. So we opened another company where we tried to make a really simple product. It was this. It's a really simple phone accessory. It's a phone grip and stand. So portrait mode, landscape mode, finger grip, it does all of these things for you. And we are manufacturing this fully and wholly in Mumbai. So we want to do that because China was shut down and we wanted to explore the Indian manufacturing scene. And under this company again, we will be making more products now. This was the version 1. Now we've stopped selling this. We'll be releasing the version 2 in maybe 3 or 4 weeks, sometime in January. Yeah. And this particular product is actually quite well compiled by a colleague of mine, so I can open that presentation. Where is it? Yeah. So a few slides of this whole process, all of you will be familiar with because you go through that in your design education as well. So this is of course the basic ideation and the sketching part. Just a sec. Ideation and the sketching. You do a market research of what's available online in the country, what are their price points. You do some basic 3D modeling, you do the 3D prints, you test them out, etc., etc. You have to go through a lot of these. You get inspired by some forms. So we were inspired by some really curvaceous forms here, etc., etc. We went door to door to see whether all these mobile accessory shops would stock it. This is the silicone molding, etc. These are the tools, the molds. So a lot of firefighting is done. So for example, in this one you see that this particular part, it looks ugly because of these two, these are technically called sink marks. So this is where the plastic has cooled at a different rate. So this surface doesn't come out flat. Okay, so then after the mold is made, then we made some changes in the mold so that we don't have that particular issue. This is the packaging. Finally had the final product which looked nice. Marketing material, website. These are the ads. So we are really big on digital ads, Facebook, Instagram, social media ads. Here are some of the ads. Shipping. So we were shipping using Indian logistics companies, the packaging, etc. Change in materials. So we were also, there were many technical considerations to be made. So for example, this is a part made in ABS, which is a little bit weaker. This is a part made in a plastic called PC, which is a little bit stronger. But now the trade-off is because this is stronger, it is also so dense that it is very shiny and it doesn't give a good look. So then you have to choose between what do you prefer more, the aesthetics or the functionality. All those considerations keep cropping up. One more thing happened. So in our mold, there some damage happened. This circle, you see, you'll see there's some defect over here. Okay, so over time some defect occurred in the tool. So what we did was we masked that and we drilled out some part from that tool and made it a part of the design to incorporate that defect as a part of the design. Like this was after 2 or 3 months. Our tooling vendor was actually very bad, so this shouldn't have happened to start with. But since it did happen, we had to firefight while the sales were on, while the production was on. Yeah. This was made by my colleague Daksh, so thank you, Daksh. So largely that's what we are up to right now. This Polygons is a company registered in the US. We will be coming up with more products. We have actually come with a lot more products under this particular company. Then this is the company which is registered in India. This is also something for which we'll be making a lot more products. This is all based in Mumbai now. And that's what we're up to right now. So yeah. And anything else at all? I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot. So I'd like to fill up the rest of the time with the Q&A and the interactive bit. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This portfolio is something I haven't updated for I think 7 years now. It's really old.
Guys, questions?
Talk to us and to the students about when you organize patterns for your
Oh,
projects.
actually, I have the pattern with me. I guess somebody would ask this. So, this is a US pattern. Oh, yeah. You wanna have a? I'll tell you. I'll tell you about that. Yeah. So, yeah, so that's a very, very interesting and important question. Uh, once I'd made it as a student, like the particular concept, I'd entered it in that some Core 77 design competition. So it had won, and then, like I said, somebody had picked it up and posted it on their blog, and it went viral and stuff. So by that time, I hadn't applied for the patent. Uh, it was later when I decided that I wanted to go ahead with it. So again, so as you are aware, you can't really apply for a patent after the idea is out there in the public, right? But in the US especially, only in the US I think, you have a law where you can still apply for the patent 1 year after it's public, provided that you can prove that it's been your idea. So, and US was the biggest market, that's where all the licensing and merchandising happens. So we did apply for a US patent, and we got it after 2.5 years. So I don't have a patent in the other countries, but that's okay. We plan to scale so fast that like nobody else can get in. Oh, also regarding that, we had some people who tried to copy this in some format, but they couldn't do it. I mean, it took me and Sandy 2.5 years, so they expected to do it in 2 months. It's not possible. I have the copycat product as well. It's a absolutely flaccid attempt at. I'll show it to you. So there were these guys. They tried to copy the thing. They even used almost the same exact marketing material. So I'll show you. You see this, and if you go through the marketing material, it's almost the exact same thing. All the GIFs, the video format. So we did send them a notice, like saying that we have a patent, you can't really do this. They didn't respond. We went to a US lawyer. The invoice was insane. It was their invoice was around 1.5 crores for going after them, litigation. So we're like, screw it. But then it didn't matter anyway because it didn't matter anyway because they were not able to make something that worked. So it didn't matter. So of course we have the patent, and I know at some point of time copies will come up, and that's the nature of hardware design or any idea at all. I mean, a patent doesn't protect you. The only thing we can do is expand fast, scale fast. So we are recognized as the original creators of the product, and yeah.
How do you intend to launch it in India through these Bhelpuri or us?
It's too expensive for them at the moment.
A knocked down version of this.
I've been thinking because when we had received a lot of inquiries for different applications. So, for example, some teachers were inquiring for it to use in their classrooms to teach geometry. There was this guy, I don't remember the exact email ID, Phil @marijuanatraders.com, something like this. He was like, okay, this is a perfect tool with which I can measure my coke and I can split it. So, so there were all these people. There were all these people coming up with weird applications for this, which was quite nice to see. Uh, so a knockdown version, especially for integration in packaging and stuff like that for pharma and let's say even something like detergent, something like that. We've had a lot of inquiries. Uh, and yes, I want to work on it and I shall get to it, yeah, definitely. Because that'll be a very, this is super expensive to produce. So obviously it's not for the application that you suggested, but we want to get into that.
I think you'll have to customize it as you grow bigger.
Yeah. And the other thing is, so right now I'm still in the dilemma. So we have other products down the line, okay? So how do I exactly balance making more variations of this versus making the other products that are on my wish list? So just building it up now, because we just recently started selling online. We are still delivering to those people who had backed us 5 years ago. I mean, because of all the challenges and the production capacity is also quite less. Even right now, China keeps locking down all their cities. Like one guy sneezes and they lock down the whole building. So it's really difficult. The production is on and off all the time. So, but things seem to be getting better. Yeah. Anybody else?
Guys, any other question?
That you are a visual design student who came into industrial design. So in college, what made you come into industrial design, or how did you decide that you want to do?
Okay. So when I say visual design student, I don't really mean that I'm great at making the best graphics. I meant the mindset, the communication mindset. So before joining college, I was super interested in comic books and superheroes and movies and stuff like animated movies. So at some point of time, I wanted to be a comic book artist or an animator. I don't have like 5% of the skills required for that even now, but that's a different question. But that mindset, so why I took product design was just for me personally, it's super important, the tangible feeling or the feeling of coming up with a solution that people are using it and it makes people go, okay, why didn't I think of that? Or having them actually use it, having it solve something in their life, that is very gratifying for me. And for me, product design was an easier avenue to chase that itch than maybe visual design. I mean, it can be done through both mediums. For me, it was more natural to do it this way. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Guys, any other questions? Yes.
I have a question, if you don't mind. You mentioned that
Continue.
you mentioned that you are quite big into the marketing and the presentation skills before when you were in college. So can you tell us more about how it helped you after you designed the product and how it helped you to get it into the market?
Oh, absolutely. So this is actually something super important that I feel everybody should be doing. There is the back end of things and the front end of things, and a lot of the times, especially industrial design students, they love staying in the back end, I feel. But unless you can really communicate the value of what you're doing in really simple words or in maybe an image or in maybe 5 seconds, it is, how do I put it? So I had gone to take juries at Nirma University, I think 3 days ago. Okay, it was a final semester thing. The main the general format of the presentation was always, okay, this is the scenario, this is how the world works, this is the problem, this is the research done, blah blah blah. At the end, they come up with the solution. Okay, this is what we solved, and that's more of a very academic way to communicate what you've been up to. If you go out there, I mean, nobody has the time to go through all of that. You show them the solution in the shortest and sharpest way possible. If they like it, they might be interested in your process. But if they don't, I mean, you've already lost them with your whole gatha before showing the solution. So that is something I would recommend. Your question was more towards, can you repeat your question once? I mean, I don't think I fully answered it.
I was wondering, if you design a product, then equally the marketing part of it also does play a major role in.
Absolutely, maybe even more.
There's this quotation that I'd heard that the main function of any company is sales. Okay, so no matter if you're an R&D, no matter if you're whatever you're doing, whatever you're in energy or whatever, at the end you have to sell. So let's say you make a product, you make the cure for cancer, but if you don't know how to sell it or how to communicate that you did that, there's no point to it. So having the final communication or the marketing material in view, and maybe sometimes back calculating what you want to incorporate in the product, that is a process I personally follow. Okay, this is what I want to envision the final video like, which will excite the people, and okay, so these are the things I want to incorporate in my product, so that people will get excited about it. I mean, that might sound a little bit shallow, but it's one of the tools that I implement for myself. Yeah.
Hello. I wanted to ask, what was your motivation or inspiration behind that?
Oh, that's a
Story. So while you are having SPD, of course, like as is the case, you will speak to your seniors for advice. So I spoke to one senior. His name was Pratik or Priti. He gave me a long story ki aise karna, waise karna, ye mat karna, wo mat karna, blah blah. And at the end of it, he said, whatever you do, Rahul, don't take up a product which has reached the final stage of its evolution. For example, a spoon. So like, okay, challenge accepted. That's the story. So thanks, Pratik. Yeah.
And as to the
inspiration behind the product itself, if just a sec, I think I have a image. Yeah, so if you go back to a time thousands of years ago where there were no tools, no spoons, no nothing, okay, you had to use your own hand, right? Your hand is flat, and then you cup it when you need to hold water or sand or whatever, and you modulate the shape of your cup depending on how much you want to hold, right? So that was the inspiration. I don't know whether this was the original inspiration or I came up with this later for the sake of the presentation. Honestly, I don't remember. But yes, that is one answer to your question. Yeah.
Why did you not leave this idea?
why did I not leave it? Because
I got too much validation for it. Yeah.
Too much validation.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't get it,
I don't even. That's why I said, in the presentation, that I was lucky in a way that that random guy chose to share it on his Tumblr and it went semi-viral or whatever. So I'm super lucky that way that I got the validation. So because especially as a student, it is super difficult to even if you come up with a great idea, okay, it's difficult to see the value behind it. That happens all the time. So I wasn't experienced enough, or I didn't see the world enough to see the value in what I'd done, and thankfully the internet did that for me.
And for 2 years, Sandy had to do with you. So we have Sandy here, and he is quite clear and vivid when it comes to an idea and expanding an idea.
yeah.
So, what qualities of yours kept Sandy with you to be persistent on developing?
So Sandy had what qualities of me?
Yeah, because we have
This is a question which you should be asking him, which you're asking me.
right now you can answer.
Okay.
See, do everybody know Sandy? Yes,
Great guy.
this is the person on to cook.
He came on Shark Tank.
Yes.
Yes, and you want to let me see if there's a video. I hope there's a video. Sandy, if you're watching this, you're welcome for the free publicity. And thank you for everything as well. Yeah. I'll skip to the good parts. Hmm. Yeah.
डिवाइस ऑन द प्लेनेट जो कि आपके लिए बचाता है 70% समय 50% ऊर्जा और आपको देता है भोजन जो कि किसी भी अन्य कुक किए गए मेथड से ज्यादा पौष्टिक हम हरा भरा कबाब फ्राई कर सकते हैं 30 सेकंड में जंबो पैटी 1.5 मिनट में हम चिकन बना सकते हैं जो कि मैं आपको बना के दिखाऊंगा 7 से 8 मिनट में सो शॉर्ट्स दिस सब करने आया हमने कुकिंग इंडस्ट्री को
The product, you can see the rest of the episode later. Yeah. Where he? I mean, I can only guess. So I'd been a student for, by the time that we got associated on this project, I had done my internship with him, I had done my diploma project with him. Maybe not because I particularly liked him or the studio, but I was just too lazy to make my portfolio. And I knew him, so he took me in. So, and he, and it's really odd because this is like beating my own drum. But he appreciated the tenacity that he felt that he saw in me. And I mean, I just booked flights to China, which is a totally alien country. I mean, nobody speaks English. Very few people speak English. The signages are in China. Google doesn't work there. Google Maps doesn't work there. So it's not an easy country to navigate. And so decisions like these, it communicated to him that I'm serious about whatever I'm doing. And of course, like the validation that the project got online, the funding that the project got online, those were exciting things for him. What he is also trying to do, like as you can see in this product now, is that even though he's running a design studio, he's actually trying to make his own products and sell them under his own brand. So this was, I was also doing the same thing, and according to him, in this country, there are very few people doing that. So we need to help each other out in that way. Yeah, and also because through this process, he would also learn a few of the things which this process involves, like especially the front end and the marketing parts, which he might not have come across yet. But otherwise, he's just a great person. So he just, yeah. So thanks to him. Yeah. And he's intense. He's many things, but.
I have a question. This is on behalf of the students. Okay. See, I mean, when you had thought of this particular idea, there was a sense of randomness in your approach. I think there were a lot of ideas that were floating in your mind. How did you actually hold on to this idea and then, pushed it ahead?
Okay. So I'll.
This is an unknown territory for you. You ventured into the US market. I mean, how did all this fall in place is what we would love to know, I guess. I mean, this will be beneficial for them also. Yes.
I think the first part of your question was a little bit different from the second part. The first part of your question was that you might have had a lot of ideas, and how did you stick with this one? I'll show you the. Okay, I'll just answer that. I think for me, luckily, or I don't know how the whole prototyping, ideation to prototyping phase took me 1 week. That's it. I mean, I started with a basic rough idea कि ऐसे ऐसे करना है. So you'll see these paper prototypes, then these are made with some sort of a laser cut and etc. Some stuff done. So these paper prototypes took hardly 2 days. Then I moved on to cardboard and then acrylic, blah blah. All these things, it took barely a week. So barely a week to come up with the basic structure, okay, and then refining that structure. Ki width kitna hona chahiye, height kitna hona chahiye, it should fit into spice jars, all those etc. All those extra things. That refinement, like the final 10 or 5% is what takes the time. But the basic idea it came to me quite fast, luckily. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but yeah. The second part of your question was?
How did you feel like getting into the US market?
Why did you decide on, venturing into the US market? I mean, of all the countries across the globe.
Okay. So the decision didn't start with the intention that, okay, I need to venture into the US market. It was more like, okay, this product is there, it's received some appreciation, mostly from the US market. So that was one pointer. To run a Kickstarter campaign, you can't do it from India. You can't do it as an Indian individual or an Indian company. So I had to register a company in the US. That's the second part. The third part is for better or sorry, for better or for worse, it's just easier for newer ideas to find acceptance in a market like that because people have more disposable income. Their basic life's basic needs have been met, so they are out looking for novelty and excitement, maybe. So that's what makes it a good market for early adopters and newer products. I mean, like, when's the last time you must have heard of a totally innovative product being made in India and being launched in India? Very few. Especially the being launched in India, but it can be made in India, but being launched in India is a little bit difficult. And of course, the other part that, I mean, in India, it's not really commonplace to use measuring spoons in your kitchen. So,
Any other questions?
there's one behind the pillar.
Problem or an idea to solve this?
Well, I answered that. I mean, it was just a challenge for me. I don't cook. I don't feel for this problem. So none of that. I mean, after making this, I did cooking. I did some cooking to test it, of course, and yeah.
Sir, as you said, in India they use.
So, can you tell us about the ratio of your sales in US compared to India?
This is a difficult question to answer. Your social etiquette skills are not great, but I love that because it'll take you far. The sales, okay. So for this, the campaign itself, we had around 36,000 backers, which resulted in around somewhere around 60 to 80,000 units that we had to produce. Right now, we just started proper live sales. So on this website, we started properly selling it in November. Okay. Before that, we were selling at a very experimental level, like pushing out some ads at a very small rate and just seeing how the people are responding. Properly, we started in November, and now it's December. And keep in mind that the production rate is quite low, and we are parallelly also shipping to the backers. And also, that's one more part of the story. So because it took so long and because COVID happened and the world economy got screwed, the prices of everything got really high. Okay, so our shipping rates, they shot up by 3x. I mean, shipping was supposed to be around $1.50. It became more than 5. So basically, all the materials and the manpower required, those costs also rose. Okay. So earlier, what we had budgeted for and the funds that we had during the campaign, which would have sufficed, those weren't anymore. So right now, what we're doing is we are running live sales parallelly with the shipping out to the backers, so that we can recycle the profits to finish that. It'll happen in a few months. It's just a matter of time, and then we'll be properly profitable. So keeping this in mind, and to answer your question, you tell me, you give me an estimate of how many, what was the question, like how many sales?
Ratio between sales in America
Oh, okay, that was a question. That's a safe question. Okay. I thought you were asking about the sales units, like the number of sales. Okay. So, we are advertising only in the US. So, we are pushing Instagram and Facebook ads only in the US right now. So, if anybody happens to buy it in India, it's just out of chance. So, we are getting some sales from the UK, Japan, all the other countries as well. But that's because somebody somehow has found this website and they placed an order. So, then it's shipped to them. But otherwise, it's almost everything is in the US right now. And that is only because our production capacity is really low right now. So we don't want to spread ourselves thin. मतलब जितना produce हो रहा है वो सारा easily बिक ही जा रहा है. So why should we take the headache of expanding everywhere? So we'll do that soon. China is also opening up. We are finding other alternatives for production. So that will happen soon. But abhi it's just it's not as fast as I'd like it to be.
Are you going to have differential pricing because $20 for
Yeah.
a spoon in
Yeah.
India?
Yeah, it's exorbitant. So, like I said, jitna producer utna big ja raha hai. So, I don't really need to bring the price down at this time. When we will have surplus stock, and then, so to start it, like there's 2-3 levels to this. One is ki whatever is getting produced, it's being sold at the price we want, right? In fact, we were thinking of testing a higher price in some time, because for the US market, of course, like it's a mad market. But once you bring it to India, in India as well, even like the population is so big, ki even if let's say 1% of the people, or even if 0.5% of the people are willing to pay for something like this, for a price like this, that itself in numbers and actual numbers is a huge population. So that's the second level. And then the third level is where you want mass penetration in a country like India, and that's when we will actually think about lowering the price. So that's 1 or 2 stages away at this moment.
Any other question? Can we ask Rahul? Wow. So, lot of hidden stories, Rahul. Lot of backstories of manufacturing and testing, which generally students uh, don't visualize or don't know, and it's not part of the academics. So I'm very happy that you showed all of that. Important takeaways for me is market validation. So whatever you think, you need to test, and documentation, and how communication and marketing is the core. So thank you very much, Rahul, for coming here, sharing your experience, sharing your time. And we hope that whenever you are in town, he's moving to Mumbai in a couple of weeks, so to take the next venture ahead. So we are very happy that you postponed or maybe managed time for this session. And I hope that whenever you are in city, we'll have you for more interactions and sessions. Thank you, Rahul.